joining us tonight on Diversity Matters. Diversity Matters is designed to be a forum where panelists from around the globe bring their different perspectives and extraordinary experiences to bear on controversial and timely issues. Our discussions will be authentic, uncensored, and entertaining. We will agree to disagree peacefully. Tonight, I'm excited to introduce our outstanding panelists. Mr. Adeeb Karam. Welcome, Adeeb.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
Dr. Daniel Beilin. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be back from Oxford University, where I'm chief of the Confederate Flag Research Organization.
And our beautiful Amanda Donaldson. Amanda, welcome from New York.
Thank you. Thank you. It's good to be here.
And hopefully we'll be joined very soon by Mr. Eric Rule. So since tonight's hot topic is the Confederate flag, I am going to start off by asking Mr. Karam, what does the Confederate flag mean to him?
Well, my understanding of the Confederate flag is it's the flag that the rebels used to use when they seceded from the Union. It was the flag they flew. It was a war flag. It was that's what their it wasn't their official flag, but it was what their battle regiments flew, a lot of them. And it was basically when they lost the war, they were kind of there was an what's the word for it? I lost it, Jenny. Go to somebody else. That's all I have.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Danielle.
Oh, I'm no expert on the Confederate flag, but in my mind, I associate it with a Civil War time, with the division of the North and the South, and the Southern armies identified with it, and it had a lot to do with preserving the fact of slavery. So when I see pickup trucks making a lot of noise going through our neighborhoods these days with Trump flags, it usually is accompanied by a Confederate flag. So it's kind of a little discomforting, to say the least, in from where I grew up, in a leftist liberal family of LA.
Amanda, same question.
Okay, so my understanding of the Confederate flag, what it means to me personally, is it's definitely associated with slavery, because that rebellion, the war was basically fought to keep slavery in place in the South. And so that is why it started as different names and so forth for the flag, but that flag, that's what it represents, to keep slavery. It was also used later on as to fight against the Jim Crow laws. Not fight against, sorry. They wanted to, so the people who want to support the Jim Crow laws use also that flag when they representing themselves. So it definitely has to do with slavery, and that's how it is seen. So anytime it's seen, that's what it portrays.
So why then was the flag criticized? Adeeb, you want to give it a go? Why was the flag criticized?
I think you just heard why the flag was criticized, is because people associate it with slavery. It's a false association, because the North was willing to let the South keep slavery if they didn't secede. So they weren't really fighting over slavery. I think it's something that people keep saying over and over again, and people have said it so much that you have two people on this panel that believe it. But I mean, if you look at history, the North was very willing to let the South keep their slaves. But the South felt threatened. They thought eventually they're the North will force them to get rid of the slaves. But the war, it wasn't fought specifically to free the slaves. It ended up freeing the slaves, which was a good thing. But you know, it's a different culture. The South is a different culture than the North, and the cultures clashed. The South lost. And the word I was looking for earlier was unconditional surrender. So the South unconditionally surrendered. So the North could have done whatever they wanted to at the time. They could have forced them to get rid of their flag. They could have, put them on war crimes. They decided to do none of that and just say, you lost the war. You're going to do, you're not going to be able to have slaves anymore. And we're going to put this behind us. But some people want to keep bringing it up. I mean, how many times do you want to fight the Civil War? It's been fought. It's been won. Let's move forward.
Yeah, but why is it that trucks are going around town with Confederate flags all of a sudden? They weren't doing that 10 years ago.
I've always seen Confederate flags. There's people in Scotts Valley still fly the Union Jack. You want to fight the Independence War over again? Just because they're flying it, you want to force them to take that down? It's ridiculous. Who cares?
I don't care. I'm not going to be interested to have them do something like that. I mean, it's a country of freedom of speech.
Right.
But,
so why does that bother you if they fly? Who cares what flag they fly?
Well, it
doesn't matter.
Because it's offensive.
It is.
It is offensive. The Confederate flag, yes, means different things to different people. Because if one's family was in the war at the time and they were fighting and they lost their family and so forth, those people will see it as something to like a heritage or so that you can say for their family, something that they can look up to and say their family fought in the war, and so they're using this as representation for that. However, you have to understand why the war was in the first place, and it was because they wanted to keep slavery. That was the fact. So that is why it is offensive to Black people.
Okay.
Because you putting that flag out there, and it's something that comes up. And what made it worse is that the KKK were the ones, when they start using it, it became more offensive.
The KKK flies the red, white, and blue, right? The stars and stripes.
Were the ones, they started flying the Confederate flag.
The KKK flies the flag you fly and I fly. They all fly the same flag.
We're not talking about that though. We're talking about a Confederate flag.
Well, does that mean? But wait a minute. If the KKK flies the red, white, and blue, the stars and stripes, does that mean we're gonna?
No, but we know why.
Some people do.
We know what
some people
they
burn that
stand
flag.
for. They're racist. We know what they stand for. So when every time they pull out, and as Daniel said, every time there is some cause for division, they pull that flag out. They pull the flag. So same thing they do now. Because of the division Trump has created, and there's a resurgence of that attitude again.
So what happens when you pull the Confederate flag out? You're basically saying, "Hey, I'm a loser. I lost the war. I got my ass kicked."
No, because
you laugh at them.
You're instigating hate. You're instigating hate and division. That's what it's doing. That's the purpose of it.
They're a laughing stock. It's like somebody wearing "I'm an idiot" shirt. I'm a loser. That's what they do. That's
when other people
look at them. Let me ask you a question, Daniel. When you look at somebody flying the Confederate flag, right? Do you look and say, "Wow, what a bunch of great guys"? Is that what you say?
I would say they
what would happen if
they're a bunch of racists? That's what they are.
But if you went up to them and say, "Hey, if you went up to them and said,"
hold on a sec. Can I just answer that? That's not true, because just because you fly the Confederate flag doesn't make you a racist. And just because you don't care if somebody flies the Confederate flag doesn't make you a racist. That doesn't mean the Confederate flag isn't offensive to people. You can fly the Nazi flag in the United States. The Nazi flag you can still fly in the United States.
Can't do it in Germany.
But it's offensive.
Right.
Yeah.
Why can't you do it in Germany?
You're right. You can't do it in Germany. And it's because we basically, Germany, we had to fight for their freedom. We're people that fought for our own freedom, right? They're not, you guys keep comparing us to these countries that have been conquered and reconquered. The United States is not like that. You are truly free in the United States to be an idiot if you want to, right?
Let me ask you a question. Do you understand when they talk about the Confederacy, they talk about state rights. Do you understand what state States rights really meant? It's to keep slaves. That's what it meant. That's what they were fighting for, exactly.
Yeah, but the North was willing to let them keep their slaves and just come back to the United States. Look it up in history. I'm not making this stuff up.
I read history. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay, but it's
So
there.
Yeah, there's always people. It's there, but that's why slavery is abolished now, because by fighting for this, it took some time. Slavery was, even though it was abolished, that's why eventually they then had to fight for the civil rights movement and all that had to come up, because even though you're saying in effect that it's abolished, but the way that people were treated and still are treated to this day because of the color of their skin is something that we still continue to fight for. And it's all based on racism.
So basically,
and the belief that
So you think
what is that?
there, the guys are joining us now. Welcome, Eric.
Okay.
The other day, they cut down 2 trees in front of my office. And the next day after that, there were 2 swastikas that were spray painted on the tree stubs.
Yeah.
So I thought, but this direction of the swastika was going in the wrong direction. So I thought these were either idiot, asshole, teenage stupids or educated Hindus.
Which
I couldn't figure that out.
Hey, Eric, welcome. So good to see you.
Hey,
It's not gonna
educated
join us.
Hindu. That was funny.
And so what I'm going to do is bring you up to date. So we had a very good discussion going here about why the flag is criticized. Would you like to tell us, why do you think the flag is criticized?
First and foremost, I think as a French person, I think the flag has been criticized because we've been living a problem in the United States where the United States has not been unified. And the Confederate flag right now has been criticized because it's a symbol of division, right? So between the South and the North. So the biggest issue with the Confederate flag, especially with all the different things that we've seen in terms of lack of unity in the United States, the problem with racism, with the Black Lives Matter, that basically re-emphasize the problem of the Confederate flag that is symbolize the lack of unity and slavery. That's basically the main variable, the main factor why the flag gets criticized, and specifically, I would say in public places. Like I said to some of my friends, me, I don't mind. I mean, some people have maybe the Nazi flag at their home. I don't care. It's private. They can have it at their house, no problem. But as soon as it becomes it's a display in the public places, then I have a problem with that. Why? Because for me, this kind of things like some statue or some flag like that, it symbolizes something. You know, it carries some history, and specifically Confederate flag carry history about slavery. And just to know, you have noticed I'm Black person, even if not African American, I'm French. In France, we don't say French African French. We don't say stuff like that. We say you French or you're not. But as a Black person, I think this is important to notice that the Confederate flag for me is a symbol of lack of unity, and that's why that's why it came to the, you know, as a topic, as a hot topic, specifically in 2020 when we face the Black Lives Matter movement and the rise of racism. So that's my take.
Thanks, Eric. Well, so now we've got everybody's feelings on that. So why don't we go to, why do you think that the white supremacists use the flag?
So, yeah, so I'm just going to answer that question. So for me, you know, it's when you look at the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, and specifically because they are the symbol of white supremacists at the extreme. So those guys, you know, when they come with the mask and everything, you know, and their symbol with the cross and so forth, it's really to reemphasize the racism and the fact that they're above other races, right? So white supremacists used this flag that was basically, after the Civil War, reinstated to show that white people are above, specifically in the United States, Black people, because it's about, once again, remember, America is born from slavery, right? It's, you know, they eradicate all the Native American, the Indians, and then after that, they built on slavery. So white supremacists, once again, what we say white supremacists, because it's like the Hitler, you know, like the Aryan race. Those white, blonde, blue eyes was above everybody else, right? So white supremacists, they think they're above everybody else. And they use the Confederate flag for that. And that's why, even if I mean, Scott just joined, but that's why for the majority of people, the Confederate flag doesn't carry a very positive symbol.
So Scott, since you have just joined us, I'm going to invite you to answer the same question, which is, why do you think the white supremacists use this flag?
That's a really good question. I don't know. I wasn't aware that the white supremacists used the Confederate flag to begin with. I thought that they had their own completely separate flag.
They actually don't. Yeah, they don't. They use the stripes, the stars and stripes, but that's okay.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think, Scott, you should probably give a little background of yourself, because you're from the South, right? And then you can explain a little bit what the Confederate flag meant to you at the time, because it's a totally different perspective, and I would like to hear from you.
Okay. Good.
Yeah, it's a very different perspective, I suppose, because I was born and raised in the South. South Carolina is where I, essentially came to this world. My father was a Presbyterian minister, primarily at Black Presbyterian churches, and I grew up in that environment for all my life, and I never really. I think this is a bit of the children and the parents protecting the children. I didn't see the evil side, the bad side of the world until I was much older. As a child, you're really, the innocence of life. But when I was in South Carolina, I always saw the flag, the Confederate flag, as a symbol of the South. And that's where I came from. And that's what it represented to me. And that's why it held something near and dear to my heart. Also, it was part of the TV shows when I grew up. You're looking at the General Lee, the Dukes of Hazzard. This is very much a glamorized symbol. So that's what I grew up with as a kid.
So yeah. Scott, do you have any stories you want to share with us that you think will really show why this flag is a positive or a negative symbol, having grown up in the South?
So, I think it's an individual thing for each person. You are the sum of your experiences. You as in the plural you. Each individual is the sum of their own experiences. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have one person who lives next door to another person that has a completely different point of view on the same thing out there, the same tree in the yard. They're going to see a tree completely differently because it was seen from a different side than the other person. So as far as a positive or negative experience surrounding the flag, again, most of my historical experiences have always been, my personal experiences have been positive, but there's also this other side to it that is really starting to come to light, that really makes you think about what those experiences were and really try and understand what they mean to you both then and now.
Thank you so much, Scott. So I want to ask everyone, in this climate that we're living in right now, do you think it's appropriate to fly the flag? And I'm going to start with Amanda.
Okay, so in my opinion, and as how do you pronounce your name? Eric, okay. As Eric said, it's a case of division. That's how this whole thing about the Confederacy and everything started, is to keep the division going. So we're trying, in as much as it's just a fabric we're discussing, it has symbol, as Scott said, for it means different things for different people. So you're born in the South, you grew up in the South, you knew about the war that was fought in the South and so forth. And for that reason, the flag was flown for those people. But the purpose of the war is what you have to understand. The war was fought to keep slavery. And because of that, right now, today, I don't believe the flag has a place in public places. It should be in a museum. Well, so if there's there are places where they have live acting, acting out these scenes of the war and so forth, it can be there. It can be used as an artifact for teaching history, but it shouldn't be, especially in a government place. Any places, you know, of the government, or if you want to have that in your own home, that's you, that's private. That has nothing to do with me. But it shouldn't be in public places where we all have to dwell and to see that every day, because it is offensive to Black people to have that flag. I am not American, but based on the history that I've read about what it all meant, I can definitely support and understand where this is coming from.
Thank you, Amanda. Adeeb.
Because if it wasn't, yeah.
Thank you, Amanda. Adeeb?
So can you repeat the question? What's the question?
The question is, do you think it's appropriate to fly this flag now in this particular climate that we're living in, this very heated political climate in a country that's very divided?
Yeah, I don't, honestly, when I see it, I think this is a free country. You should be able to fly whatever flag you want. It's you know, nobody, there's no, in a free country, you're not guaranteed not to be offended. If somebody tries to deny you any kind of right because they're flying their flag, if a restaurant's flying the flag and they refuse to serve you or anything in that kind of fashion, I completely agree. But the people that actually fought the war and lost lives and lost treasure, right, decided to let the South keep their flag. They didn't think it was all that important. And at the end of the day, it's like, what's next? Okay, so you get rid of the flag. You think you're going to get rid of racism because you got rid of the flag? Give me a break. No way. I mean, you're going to get rid of the statues? Okay, then what? You know, what, you know, like, what's next? The war was fought and lost by the South a long, long time ago. It's time to put it behind us. People today in the South don't look at the flag and say, yes, we're going to bring back slavery. I don't know a single, I've been to the South, I've never met a single person that says that. I think the idea that we're making this flag, we're giving it such importance, is absurd. People should be allowed to fly it. Of course they should. It's a free country.
Thank you, Adeeb. Daniel. I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm here.
He's in the dark.
But I'm back.
We can't see you again. We can't see you, and your microphone is really noisy. Why don't I go to Eric and then I'll come back to you? Let me go to Eric, start that out, and then I'll come back to you. Eric.
Yeah, for me, until I have a different point of view, but I respect what Adeeb just said. However, me, for example, if I in the public places, I will see the Nazi flag floating around. I don't know. It's a free country, but I will have a problem with that, because remember, the human memory. The memory is there's a lot of stigma. So if you keep some stigma from the past, that was really revealing a lot of suffering, especially for Black people. But I know you're not Black, but you probably try to relate to what I'm trying to say. There's some flag, there's some symbol from the past, even if it's a free country, that is a stigma that bring back memories. So if you want to move on, you have to basically remove those stigma, right? You have to basically, even it's a free country, but you have to be able to move on. You have to remove those stigma. So basically, everything that symbolizes the hate, the crime, the genocide and everything, even if it's a free country, I will have a problem with that. Those have their places in museum, yes, because you have to remember where we come from. There's some places for that. There's a thing that we miss is wisdom. Yes, it's a free country, but we have to apply wisdom in a free country. Otherwise, it's chaos. Because a free country is not, if you look at I'll give you some example of what a free country problem might become. You look at Europe, in France, very free, very open with the immigration and so forth. Oh my gosh, now you go to France, there's a lot of terrorism over there, right? Because there's no boundaries. It's so free that it becomes chaos. We let anybody and everybody come in and do whatever they want. You cannot, we live in a society when unfortunately you cannot trust human being to be that free. You know what I'm saying? You have to have some kind of boundaries. So I will have a problem with that. Personally, yes, having the flag in museum, having the flag privately, like Scott said, for him, it always been something positive. If he have a Confederate flag on his house, and I know Scott very well, I have no problem with that. But if you have that on my main street, when I go downtown Los Gatos with a Nazi flag floating around, a Confederate flag floating around, I'm gonna say, wow, it's a free country, but man, this is for me, that would be absurd to go back in the past.
Thank you so much, Eric. Daniel, are you ready?
Oh, I can try. As you know, I'm delivering some medicines to patients.
Okay, we can't see you, but we can hear you. So let's hear what you're saying. We are just going to excuse you because you're a doctor.
I wish there were, there are probably some movements in Africa where they held whites as slaves. But, the bottom line of the whole thing is having compassion. If we want to move forward and not eliminate ourselves with global warming and all of the problems that we're having, as Noam Chomsky has given us a final warning that we don't have much time left. We have a couple of generations, and then we're due to go extinct. If we don't get some compassion right now for each other and what each other's races and cultures have gone through, we're in deep shit. And to reenact the past, there's nothing wrong with free speech. Everybody's entitled to it, but have some feelings for other people that might be hurt or to reminded of the pain that they've gone through. Excuse me, but defending the Confederate flag is, you might as well, Dave Chappelle, the comedian, did a really funny bit where he pretended like he was blind and he didn't know that he was black, and he decided to join the Ku Klux Klan, and there was only one guy, his friend, that knew he was black, and so the whole title of the whole bit was called The Black White Supremacist. And so he tried to act like a white supremacist being black, and it was hilarious. But the point of it was that, have some respect and have some compassion for your fellow man, and the 500 fucking years of slavery that should have never happened, the 8 million or 6 million Jews that got killed, the Jehovah's Witnesses, the gays, the whoever didn't deserve in any way the shitty treatment that they've gone through. Have some compassion, man, or else we're not going to make it here. That's my bottom line.
Thank you, Daniel. Scott?
You guys all bring up some really, really good points. I think that the flag being flown in a government-sponsored or a public-sponsored place is inappropriate, unless it is specifically oriented to that particular government-sponsored or public-sponsored organization. I think that it's very representative. This is all about symbology. It's very representative when you're flying a flag of who it is that you're representing. And if you are representing the people, for example, the state, or if you're representing part of the union or part of an organization, remember that you're raising that flag, you're flying that flag in representation of that organization. I find myself asking, okay, what if it's the rainbow flag? What if it's a different flag that you're flying here? Would you fly that flag in the same place? Is there a reason that you're flying that particular flag? What is the symbology behind that? And there was a lot of death that happened in the Civil War on both sides. The only real representation that we have from that I'm aware of, is the Confederate flag. I don't know if there was the northern side. Did they have a flag? This is where my knowledge fails me. But I haven't seen that as far as representation as part of that symbology. So again, personal spaces, again, as Adeeb said, this is something that we have our freedom of speech, our freedom of representation. I strongly support that as well. But as far as a public representation, that's something that has a little bit different of a connotation. And I personally would not like to see it flown in a public place.
Wow, this is great to hear that from somebody from the South.
Yeah, I mean, I keep wondering about Australia and Great Britain with the Union Jack being part of the Australian flag.
That's true.
Given the history of Australia, what do they think about the Union Jack being in there? It's the same type of question. It's all part of their history. It's all part of their symbology.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you so much, Scott. And we know that, especially with this last election, a lot of those flags suddenly started to surface. So does anybody want to express their views on why they think that is? Why do you think we had this happening?
Adeeb?
Sure. I mean, I'll chime in. Honestly, I don't see, I mean, at least here in California, we don't see the Confederate flag too much. You'll see it now and again. But at the end of the day, it's, if somebody's trying to send a message of hate using anything, right? You don't need the Confederate flag to do it. But if you're using the Confederate flag to do it, it's a bad thing, right? But it seems to me like we're trying to punish people for what their great-grandparents did. You shouldn't be punished for what your parents did, let alone what your great-grandparents did. And it was only part of what they did. It was like the Confederate flag doesn't just represent, if the Confederate flag just represented slavery, I would say, yeah, let's get rid of it. I think they should have gotten rid of it back then, but that's not all it represents. And if you think that's all it represents and you're against it, I get it. But you got to understand that to a lot of people, and we have somebody on the panel here today, we have Scott, they grew up with that flag talking about the Southern culture. And yes, part of the Southern, but and let's face it, slavery is not just in the South. It's all over the world, right? And white people enslaved other white people, black people enslaved other black people. It's not the whites brought the blacks to America and they enslaved them. That's just not true history. And if you think that, I suggest you look back. So I don't, I don't like to see it. When I see the people flying it with hate, I think if somebody's flying to say, hey, I can fly whatever I want, I'm like, yeah, more power to you. It's your right to do it. But if you're trying it because you want to send a message of hate, then yeah, I have a problem with it.
Thank you, Adeeb. Yeah. Anyone else want to make a comment on this, Eric?
Yeah, I would like to rebound on something because I do not agree with that. I'm from France. So in France, there's racism all over the world. France, I'm sorry to tell you, but the foundation of France was not based on slavery, okay? No, it was not. I'm telling you, because there was the serf, and then the serf was basically the slave at the time was mostly white. You know, there was the king and was the servant.
Hello.
So they had slaves.
Yeah, but it was not black, there was white, there was a mix of people. But slavery,
maybe not slavery in France. But
yeah, but it was like, what I'm saying is like, there was not like a supremacist in terms of race. What I'm saying, there was like, there was like the caste, if you will. There was the king, the rich, and the poor. And the poor, all of them, there was basically slave. There was servant. not really slave, but call it
Don't
servant.
forget France built their wealth from
Say it
other
again?
countries.
Yes.
And they still do. They
So,
still do.
but on the land itself of France, they didn't do that. They colonized, they did colony. So they went to Africa,
Yeah,
they went
like
to the
England
Caribbean,
did.
and they enslaved people outside of their land, right?
Like
So-
England
Makes them much
did. England
better.
did that too.
And England said the same thing and so forth, right?
Yeah.
That's what the colony, the Spanish did the same thing, the Netherlands, I mean, all those guys, that's the example is what they did. America, they enslaved people within the land, right?
But
And
Eric,
then what they
I'm
did,
sorry.
and what they did, there was like basically the white supremacy, that's what we call the white supremacists, with the lower race, and the lower race was the black people.
Did
And
you
that's
want to
what
say something, Adeeb?
Yeah. So
Go ahead.
that's not exactly true. First of all, the United States was a territory, right? It was a French and English and British territory. So the slavery was under the British and under the French back when they, because Louisiana was a Spanish territory, but the Spanish, so when you're looking at the United States, it wasn't created, using slavery. It was a territory, and the Americans fought for their independence, and they got their independence. So I don't know if that equates. So it's
It
not
was
like
built on slavery.
Wait, what?
America was built on slavery.
yeah, the roots.
America was built on slavery. There's no if and
every country. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to argue the point one way or the other. If you want to say it, that's fine. But every country back in the day was built on slavery. Every country was. I mean, if you look back in the Bible, the people that they look to in the Bible, when Jesus was talking about it, intelligent people, he was talking about slave owners. He never once denounced slavery. Was a part of life for a long, long time. And a country like the United States and other countries didn't want to have slavery. So they fought and they got rid of slavery. So, I mean, you're talking about every other country in the world was built the same way. So.
Thank you, guys. Scott, did you want to say anything on this?
Well, it's interesting to hear the different opinions,
Right.
and they all have that kernel of truth. They're all valid in almost every way. America had a significant amount of and I'm trying to figure out how to say this effectively. I don't know that I would say it was built on slavery. It was built by immigrants. Slavery was certainly a component of that. There were a lot of things that were components of the United States becoming the United States. And as far as the flag itself, it's a representation, again, of that era, of that point in time. Specifically of the Civil War, which we should not, for any reason, forget the atrocities that happened, not only just from war, which is always an atrocity, but from the underlying undercurrent of the war in the first place, which was to abolish or not abolish slavery. So it's one of those things that when, for example, the Jews and the gays in the Holocaust, they've adopted the triangle, the inverted triangle, as their symbol, as a reminder of the Holocaust. It's just how you take that symbology.
Thank you, Scott. Daniel, are you still there?
I am here.
Did you want to say anything to this? Do you want to make a contribution?
I agree that America was built by immigrants and slaves. I mean, look at New York, who built that? Italians, Irish, Jews, they all took on what they could do and they built it up to be what it was. So, this is a very interesting country. I think with the rise of the last 4 years, Trump has made a point to bring out and stimulate what is true fascism in the world and make it okay, somehow violating the normal behaviors of a president and making a bad example internationally is one of the biggest crimes that could be committed. and he will go down as the most dangerous president that we've ever had. And if you look around at the fascism that's on the rise internationally, it's almost like we're another pre-World War II. We, instead of Mussolini, we have Turkish the Turkish president. We have the Venezuelan president. We have the Hungarian president. It's coming back, and Trump has not been anyone that would deflate that in any way or make a good example for the world. We're in trouble, and it's going to take 2 or 3 or 4 terms of a different energy to undo what he's done. So that's plain and simple fact. And call me up 20 years and tell me before I die that I was right.
Thank you
Can I
very
chime in
much.
on that one?
Adeeb want to say something.
Yeah, can I chime in? So honestly, for us who've lived in the United States for a long time, who've just got some gray hair, I mean, I remember people saying that about Ronald Reagan. I remember people saying that about Bush the first. I remember people saying that about Bush the second. And now they're saying it about, Trump. And it's the same rhetoric. I mean, if I remember being in Europe and seeing, the Nazi symbol on George Bush and how the Europeans hated George Bush. I'm not hearing anything new. I mean, people are seeing it. Maybe people are more excited about it now, but I thought I saw more white supremacy stuff, at least in California. That's where I lived, back when Reagan was president than when Trump was president. But I hear in the media, I hear it more about Trump, even though you heard it a lot about Reagan. So, I mean, Daniel, you've lived, I mean, I'm not sure, I don't want to kind of ask you what your age is, but I'm sure you lived through Reagan. And did you say the same thing when Reagan was president that you're saying now?
No, not at all.
Really?
Reagan was an angel compared to what we have here.
So
you always look back at Republican presidents and say, I think you know what's going to happen in 20 years.
I
look back at Donald Trump and say he was an angel.
I was being tear gassed on the Vietnam War protests at Century City when I was 12 with my mom and my brother, and that was a senseless war. But we didn't have much else criticism of the president. We have a sick man as president. He's a psychopath. He's been analyzed by 2,000 psychiatrists worldwide as being a malignant narcissist. He's the sickest person that we've ever had to represent our country, defined by modern day analysis, whether by therapists, psychiatrists, medical doctors. They will all agree he's a very, very sick guy. He's been tortured by his father. He could never be good enough, and that's why he won't go down, because he's such a disturbed person. He's like a 3-year-old boy that can't have his lollipop. That's the basis of Trump. We've never had anybody like this ever.
So I would like to, I don't want to say an analysis on Trump, but what I can tell you as a French person I live in the United States since 1995. So I went through a lot of different presidents. And as a Black person, this is the very first time for 4 years when Trump was president that I was living in fear as a Black person. I never done that before. Adeeb, you're not Black person, therefore you cannot, we talk about things, we've seen this, we've seen that. It's not about seeing, it's about living. I live something different that you don't have experience, unfortunately. And that's the problem of the world today. Because you're not in our shoes. You guys, you're not in our shoes. Or for Black people living day in and day out with my kids, I have kids, and afraid for them. Because the racism, the way we live that racism is like Daniel talked about, it's energy. Since Donald Trump came in place, it's about the energy. You could feel it, the fear as a Black person to walk on the street, to walk on the park, to jog, to do this, to do that. I never had that before since 1995. Only this past 4 years that we have that fear. So it's a reality, my friend. It's not the fact that, oh, this president, we said this about this, said about that. It's about the energy and the fact that Black people lived in fear.
Wait, hold on a sec. I don't disagree that Black people live in fear. Clearly you live in fear, and I believe you do, and I'm sorry you do. But is it realistic? Is it a rational fear? Right? That's my question to you. And the question is, how many times, I mean, I have an Arabic name. I don't know if you know, but you know, like, I'm not Muslim, but Muslims who walk to their mosques in Santa Clara would get stuff thrown at them. They would get, like, you know, cans of Coke, cans of, you know, all sorts of stuff. This is here in the United States, right? In Santa Clara, in Silicon Valley, in a very liberal California. So don't tell me that, you know, being Arabic is much different than being Black in the United States. It's not. But is it irrational? Well, hold on a sec. Is it a rational fear? How many times have people walked up to you? And I've walked down Chicago with an Indian friend where somebody was going to knock him down, and I had to get in the way and make sure they didn't. So I know that there's violence out there. I'm not saying there isn't violence, but realistically, how many times have somebody walked up to you and tried to attack you because you were Black here living in California? Since Trump has been president.
Okay, let him answer. We're running out of time.
Sure.
Go for it, Eric.
Yeah. I'm just going to tell about my experience for that, but I'm going to go back to your question about, is it realistic? Yes, it is. When I heard Donald Trump on public television doing a speech, when the mediator asked him the question about, do you condemn the white supremacists? Do you tell them what he says? Step back, stand down. He basically they put. That's for me a sign. No other president say anything like that publicly to the world, my friend. That's for me a fact, and that's a reality. That's not like it's a perception. That's what the president said. Yeah, you remember that yourself?
No. Hey, Eric, I totally, that was a stupid thing to say.
So when you say something like that,
but it wasn't against Black people. That wasn't the question.
But listen,
that was not the question.
No.
When you say something, it was directed against everybody. The fight is against everybody in the United States, not just Black people.
When you say something like that about white supremacists, what does it mean? White supremacist.
Supremacy.
It's a dog whistle. It's an absolute dog whistle. Nobody would disagree with you on that. I agree with you. That's a dog whistle.
So if you ask me, that's my answer to you.
Great arguments. I love the passion. I love the honesty. I'm feeling it. And I am so grateful to each of you. And because I want to do this all night, but we can't, I'm going to give each of you a chance to leave your final message for the viewers. Why don't we start with Scott? He's been so patiently sitting here with a big smile.
My final thoughts. I love the engaged conversation. Thank you for all having an open mind and talking about it. The one thing that I would like everybody to walk away with is that what you're looking at from a symbology perspective is what you see from your perspective. You can't put yourself in another person's eyes. It's up to you to internalize that. So respect that opinion and let them internalize it the way they internalize it.
Thank you so much, Scott. Daniel.
Okay, my bottom line is we don't have too much more time to get our shit together in this next 15 years. And we've got to stop and understand we're all in one boat together. And this isn't the past, and it's no time for separation. I have lost friends during this last 4 years, and I'm sure all of you have. There's never been another time in my life where I've lost friends because of some division of philosophy. This is a bizarre thing that needs to stop. I don't know if Biden is going to be able to do what his vision is, but let's give him a chance, and let's stop the shit and understand that we're in deep trouble, and we need to unify when that happens. Just like when there's a big earthquake, we all come together. That's what we've got to do towards the environment. and towards regulations of the environment and switching over to better forms of energy that exist on the planet at this time. I think we got to follow the Germans. We've got to reunite with Europe and make some sense with our potential enemies being Russia, number one, and China, number two.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Amanda.
Okay, what I want to say is that the discussion was based on a flag, a fabric that has great significance for division, white supremacy, racism, slavery, inequalities. It represents all those things. And what I would like to say is that, yes, we definitely need to removing the flag and putting it in a museum or such place does not solve the problems that we continue to have of the inequalities and racism and inequality in all aspects of our lives, the education system, the justice system, the healthcare system, and all that. So we have quite a lot of work to do. And we need to not cause more division. And I hope with the new president that we can at least move a few steps forward to be more united as a country and as a people. Because where we are right now has thrown us back like 100 years. That's how I felt for the past 4 years.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Eric.
Yes, so me, I would like to say that, to close that statement of mine, that, you know, this panel is a clear representation of what your state is. You know, we have like white people, you have female, male, you know, we're all different. So our diversity show that we can make it. We can be completely have different opinion, but still have a dialogue, you know, and talk to each other. That's the key. We have no hate here. We're passionate, yeah. We're not necessarily to agree with each other, but we're all brothers and sisters. There's only one race here. And like Daniel said, we have not too much time, but we have to realize that we're only one race, we're humanity. This is us right here, you know? And if we don't have the compassion like Daniel was talking about, we don't tap into our wisdom and love, like universal love that we all have, then we're not gonna make it. So we need to start raising our level of consciousness, you know? We don't have to let that to the president. Even Joe Biden, yeah, why not? Trump, you know, whatever. It's up to us, not to the leaders of this world. Because you can be Democrat, Republican, tell you the truth, all politicians are liars, okay? So I will not even give my life to them. It's up to us to make it happen. It's up to us to love, to change the energy. It's gonna come from us, not from the top, but from the bottom.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Eric. So now we come to the fun part. So everybody could loosen up. Let's see how many wise people we have on our panel tonight. Here's your first trick question. What question can
Hey, wait a minute. I didn't get a chance to say anything. What happened? Do I not count? What's going on here?
No.
I'm so sorry.
That's so true.
Go for it, Adeeb. I am so
No, we've got to recount the ballots.
Yeah, recount now. There's a lawsuit here.
Go for it. Sorry about that.
It's okay. You know, actually, in a final thought, I thought the comments were excellent towards the end, especially, but all through the show. I think it's going to come down to respect. You might not like what the flag stands for, but you have to respect the people that it means something to. It seems to me like we're trying to punish people for what the flag used to represent or a specific part of what used to represent. If we want to get together, we got to care about each other. I might not agree with the flag. I've never flown the flag. I might not agree with what the flag stood for in the past, but I respect the person who wants to fly it. And if we want unity, we have to listen to each other and really respect each other. And I like what we're doing here. I like the different perspectives. Jennylyn, thank you for putting this together.
Sure, absolutely. It's my pleasure. I love all of you and I love all your opinions. So here's the first trick question.
I know the answer.
Okay.
It's to get to the other side.
What question can you never say yes to?
What question?
What question can you never say yes to?
Vote Trump again.
Anybody think they have the answer?
Just so many questions. That's what we say.
Well, just give it your best shot. What do you think the answer is?
Would you like to die today?
Oh, no. Anybody else?
What color are your eyes?
No. Anyone else?
How about do you not know the answer?
No. Are you asleep yet?
What's that?
The
Are you
answer-
Are you asleep?
Are you asleep yet?
What if you talk in your sleep?
Well, I'm sure you still wouldn't get the question. So here's the next question. What month of the year has 28 days?
February.
February.
Depends on the year.
No, all the months except February.
Oh, yeah, good point. Come in.
Every month. Very good, Daniel.
All the months.
Good job, Daniel.
Okay, here's your last question. What can you break even if you never pick it up or touch it?
Speed of
Trust.
sound. Speed of sound.
Nope. Give it another shot.
Say it again. What?
What can you break even
Yeah.
if you never pick it up or touch it?
The heart.
Trust.
A promise. I will accept trust. There you go.
Promise.
Thank you. Okay, since we're having so much fun with this, I have one more. A man was outside in the rain without an umbrella or a hat, and he didn't even get one hair wet. Why? A man was out in the rain. He was not wearing he didn't have an umbrella. He was not wearing a hat. He was not covering his head, but he didn't even get one hair wet. Why?
He was bald.
Here we go.
That's it. He was bald. Guys, this was
Very good. Thank you, Daniel, to represent.
That was easy.
Guys, I would like to thank each of our panelists for being on this show and for having the courage to share your views candidly. This platform is open to all views, religions, ethnicities, cultures, and differences, even gender non-specific. Our goal is to agree to disagree because we believe it's possible and necessary for us to create this necessary shift in the world. Join us in breaking stereotypes and molds. Let's embrace diversity and we believe when you embrace diversity, you embrace humanity. And thank you for watching Diversity Matters. We will be back to discuss more hot, sizzling topics. And thank you all so very much.
I hope it's vegetarian.
And we will see you next time.